Hey, this is Polish Matt in the first episode of Buy, Rebuild and Ride. This episode is gonna talk about my 1982 Honda VF 750C V45 Magna. Let's get into it. I picked up this particular motorcycle from a friend of mine from Seward, Andrew Coranda from Coranda Motorsports, link in the description. And it was in pretty poor shape. It didn't, it was, okay, one thing, it was fairly complete. However, it was clearly neglected. It was so-called a barn find. Some guy just bought it, kept it in the barn, didn't take care of it, it just forgot about it, whatever. So as you can see right now, it was pretty ugly. It had a torn seat, a lot of rust, very dirty. Of course, wasn't running, And soon enough, we discussed the price, and I put it in a trailer, U-Haul trailer. Very good deal, by the way. You don't need to buy a trailer in the US. You can just rent one for 20 bucks from U-Haul. The only thing you gotta do is to put a hitch on your car and you're good to go. Anyway, so, I took it to my garage, and one of the first things I started doing was basically taking it apart to clean it, because it was very dirty. There was a lot of mud and all kinds of stuff. And of course, every time you buy an 80s bike, you probably need to start with the carb cleaning. And with these particular bikes, it's actually very annoying to do so, because these carbs don't come out easily. You gotta really, pry it, dance, couple dances, pray to whatever God you believe in, or use all kinds of magic tricks to actually take the carbs out from this frame. It can be devastating. You can break the little links between them. So the best way to do it is actually keep the plenum on, with the plenum bolts on, and so that you have some sort of rigidity to it, to the whole assembly. And you have to loosen up the clamps that hold the rubber boots. And after you do that, but like I'm saying, completely loosen them up. Like take the bolts out, take them out completely. And then with a lot of magic and whacking and wicking and whatever, and of course after disassembling half of the water hoses that go there, which is also pretty tricky. You can burn yourself if the bike is hot, but of course it's not, because it wasn't running. You can take them out. You put them on a table and you start opening them up, and it's usually gross. So we gotta buy a couple carb kits. There's two types of carb kits, right? There is the economy ones that come with the float ball seal. They come with the new pilot screws. They come with the new needle valves and with the new needles, couple of screws and springs and all the O-rings. And there is the more advanced one that actually comes with jets. You most likely won't, if you meet rusty 80s carbs, you probably won't need the one with the jets, because the jets you have, they're going to be good enough, whatever. And the rest of the carbs is probably so decalibrated that it doesn't really matter. What you need to really take care of is to put it together properly, and also don't destroy it while disassembling. And one of the important things here is, whenever you take the pilot screws out, first time you bought this bike, you have it, and you don't know what you're dealing with yet, don't do the common mistake that, in the manuals they always tell you to know the initial setting of the pilot screws. You gotta turn them in all the way, and then count, of course, while you're turning it in, count the number of turns to know what was the initial setting. Well, the rule of thumb is usually the initial setting is gonna be somewhere around 2.5, 3 turns out. The good rule of thumb, 2.5, you don't have to do it. Now, what's really bad is if there is a lot of nasty gunky stuff in the passage where the pilot screw goes in, you may actually, while screwing it in initially, you may actually break the little tip off, and that's very dangerous because it's gonna stay in the carb. That happened to me once, and you basically need to get a new carb or try to drill it out and then hope it's not gonna completely mess up, like lean out or actually enrichen your mixture. So you gotta be careful with that. So with most 80s bikes, you will notice that a lot of stuff is broken, and you're gonna have to replace it. And with, for example, older Kawasaki's, you're gonna face the problem of parts availability. They're just not there. You're not gonna be able to get them. So luckily enough, with Honda, it's actually not that bad, and like I said, it's not as bad as Kawasaki. I don't want to like hate on anyone, but that's truth. Like any 80s Kawasaki, I would stay away from. Of course, the fuel pump on the bike was broken. I had to buy another one, so I bought a replacement. This is actually one from Honda Civic, and it of course arrived broken, so I had to return it. So then I didn't have a fuel pump, so I decided maybe you know what, maybe I will go with the MR Gasket, you know, micro electric fuel pump, 12 volt 42S. Stay away from them. They don't work. I mean, they will work for a little bit and they will give up on you. There's a lot of posts on the V4 Muscle Bike forum that talk about those. Don't get them. They just crap. Okay. Plus, you're gonna have issues with finding the adapter, making them not leaking, and then fitting them. If you're talking about Magna specifically, on a 750, there is very little space under the seat where you could actually fit it. You can barely fit the bigger one from a Honda Civic. Not even talking about this MR Gasket. Okay, moving on. Of course, that V4 engine, some people like refer to them as like L4. I mean, probably not many people, but the whole idea is that it's not symmetric between like a Harley or a Suzuki Intruder or any classic bike. This is actually more like an L shaped, where the front is basically laying almost horizontal and the back is almost vertical. I mean, it's 90-degree one, so you know. So keep in mind that the parts differ between the front bank and the back bank, and this is the reason why a lot of these bikes don't run well, because they're just poorly put together. So keep that in mind. There is, for example, I'm presenting a picture of front and rear spring difference, and then the emulsion tubes. There may be some differences on the jets, so check that out. Consult with manual, or I just usually go to MR Cycle or Ron Ayers to check the online, they call it Fische or whatever, so like a parts catalog. Check that out, it's definitely worth it. Double check everything. Make sure you don't make mistakes, because otherwise your bike is not going to run well. So then, after putting it together in this picture with the MR Gasket, very terrible pump, but it was some pump, I was able to get it to run. And yeah, there's a pretty cool video. It's that. So what's important to say about this part is that there was a mouse nest in the exhaust, I believe. So all this mess that you see on the floor in this picture is basically the remains of whatever was left by mice in the exhaust. It got all blown out when I first started the bike. It actually didn't want to start. It was like a big, and then it started coming out. It was disgusting and smelly. There was also a hornet's nest in the airbox. I don't think I have a picture of that. And then the first ride, you know, there's nothing more rewarding than, you know, after you spend time and then went on and bought a bunch of parts and put them in your bike when it finally runs. At this point I changed the oil, of course, the coolant. I don't think I had to do anything to the brakes. I mean, of course I had to adjust the rear brake with the front. Oh yeah, of course, the front, both the master cylinder for the brake and for the clutch, they were both broken. Like, there is a little window in which you can see the fluid, the brake fluid, and I pressed on it like a child, like and my finger just went through, completely shattering that little window. And that's good, because otherwise I would, you know, it would probably happen while I would ride when you build the pressure up or something. So I had to replace them. Beautiful sound of the bike running, you know, first time you start it, there's nothing better. And then the first ride, you know, okay, don't give me all that crap about how irresponsible it is to ride without a helmet, and also, you know, that it's like one hand control with another hand, you know, trying to take a selfie. I was very tired and I was very excited, and it was literally just a ride, like maybe less than 100 feet, you know, around my garage. So I acknowledge I always ride with a helmet when it comes to riding on the street or whatever. There are instances of like maybe you know, 20-second rides where I don't, or when I move the bike around. Don't give me crap for that, okay? Don't be a white knight. That's okay, okay? The selfie thing, yeah, I get that, but whatever. I got some of these replacement brand new, you know, almost OEM looking master cylinders. Now the funny thing is the stock master cylinder for the clutch has a groove in it where you're supposed to put the little wheel lever that actuates the choke. Now, as you see in this presented picture, the aftermarket part doesn't have it. So you gotta do something about the choke. So it was silly. I initially kept that little wheel on the bars, and I was pulling the wire against it. It was disgusting. So I came up with a mod that you can do yourself with just, you can buy a cable replacement, a cable repair kit on eBay, like a little, just make sure, I'm gonna point that out. I actually made a post on this on the V4 Muscle Bike forum. There is a little special adapter that you can use to cut the stock, let's say Honda's 450 kind of pull lever choke actuator, and you can put this little piece on it, just that you can have like a pull actuated under the tank choke, which is actually really cool. I'm attaching the picture, maybe you can figure out what I'm talking about. The good stuff is also to have a pretty long screwdriver, because the little bolt that you need to fasten in order to make that little clampy thingy to latch onto the actuator, it only can be, you know, bolted on after you lift the tank and you go straight up. But if you have everything put together with the air filter and so on, you don't really have much space. So it's really good to have like a long screwdriver, dive in there and just be able to tighten it from the top. That's just, there we go with the bike, kind of put together. I think I had to also replace the horns, so I bought the Honda Shadows horns. The VF VT, so it's the V-twin and V4 families in the 80s looked very similar, and they shared a lot of parts. So feel free to, you know, use some stuff from one to another, like speedometers, tachometers, headlights, horns, little reflectors, maybe foot pegs, some tail pieces, electrical pieces, you know, the fork, all kinds of stuff. And then we go again. My friend Andrew Coranda from Coranda Motorsports in Seward allowed me to use his tire machine. So I picked up two Dunlop D404 tires, put in my bike, went to Seward. It's like a half-hour drive. It's really cool. It was a beautiful day. I went with my friend. It was a fun ride, and it was also fun to, you know, learn how to put the tire on the wheel yourself. I really appreciate that experience, and, you know, I really appreciate that he let me do it. Thanks, Andrew. Another stuff that can be done to these bikes to make them pretty, not necessarily very functional, but pretty, is polishing all the aluminum pieces. These bikes were made back in the 80s when, you know, materials were cheap, aluminum was cheap. I think that's kind of my theory. I'm not absolutely sure about it, but I think that's the way it is. And they have a lot of polished aluminum parts, and from the factory they came covered with the clear coat. Well, this clear coat, after like 30 years of sitting, you know, being exposed to weather and all kinds of stuff, usually gets very like blurry, milky, white almost, sometimes gray. It's gross, and it doesn't really look right. Well, what I tend to do on these bikes, and I did it on my first Magna back in Poland, was you use the paint stripper to take the clear coat out completely. Be careful, don't touch it. I prefer to use aircraft brand stripper, because it's probably the most potent stuff you can get. I'm not absolutely sure. I'm not sponsored by anyone, but I'm just saying. I use that one with a lot of success. Just be careful, because if it gets in your skin, it burns a lot. And also, don't put your nails in any. Whenever you work with bikes, try not to put your fingers, like, you know, in the chemical itself. Use some sort of gloves, either rubber gloves or work gloves, because then the funny stuff, for example, if you work with gas, or you work with some sort of solvents, then your nails break like nothing. So careful with that. Anyway, a lot of polish. So I prefer to use Mother's brand polish for metal and mag. I think it's called steel and mag polish. I'm gonna post a link or picture, whatever. And you just need a buffing wheel on a motor. That's it. You can hold the piece in place and then use, for example, the angle grinder to do this. But angle grinder, if you don't have a way to vary the speed, maybe a little too harsh and burn the actual part. So be careful. So polishing, polishing. It looks beautiful. It really makes a lot of features of this bike pop. So there is a little bit of a walk around sequence I took at the DMV when my seat was still patched together using a tape, and I already did some polishing on it. The fork was rebuilt, and I kind of shined it up a little bit. Okay, so enjoy. As the summer started coming in, I took the bike to various events, such as European Motorcycle Night here in Lincoln. I rode it around. It was like my daily rider for some time. I really enjoyed it. It was great experience. And there are some of these moments where you put your bike on a parking lot or somewhere, and it's just the right, I don't know, angle, just the right position. You turn the bars just a little bit, and actually the Magna 750 has this beautiful choppery look to it, especially in this color that I had it. I think it's called the Candy Imperial Blue. I didn't have side covers on it at the time, but the tank was like really nice. I mean, here it's like a little dirty, but still looks pretty solid. I want to talk a little bit about the seat, because the seat when I got it was torn, and after I took the cover out, it turned out to be like there was like little tunnels eaten by mice. I mean, they had to build a nest out of something, I guess. So I decided to reupholstery it myself, and the way I did it, I went on eBay and shopped around. Right, there is all kinds of different types of covers. There is like basically just the material itself. There is one that doesn't have the underlayer with the foam, and there is the more expensive type that has that padding underneath, which I decided to pick. It's like probably around $60–70, and I have to say it was worth it. When it arrived, it looked like this. I was kind of surprised because it's kind of funny that it has the strap and whatever. They actually provide you the instructions how to put them on, and there's different options. Like you can glue it on, or you can like use a stapler, or you can just use the strap that's like the little strap. I decided to use the stapler. I bought a stapler especially for the purpose. I went on Amazon, just Amazon Prime, whatever was the cheapest. I have an air compressor in my garage, so that was a perfect fit. And yeah, let's enjoy the ugly view of the original seat cover that I had on this bike with the layers and layers of tape that kind of tried to hold it together. It was just disgusting. No. Yeah, this is the final effect. Here it looks a little baggy, like if there is a lot of like free like space underneath or air. There really wasn't. It's just an effect on the camera. The bike itself presented really well. I have to say, it really cleaned up the bike. Definitely recommend, just don't try to cut this yourself unless you have like really good skills in like sewing. Don't do it yourself. Just get the pre-made seat cover, put it on with the stapler, spend some time, remeasure, realign it, and it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna look really good. And here's a girlfriend shot sitting on this Magna when it was in its prime time. In other words, both side covers, saddlebags, all polished up, all nice, all running, fairly good condition tires, both mirrors on. Yeah, that's probably the best shot of this bike. And what do we have here? Okay, so of course, we're talking about riding a motorcycle. So I kind of wanted to show that, a lot of people say, hey, those older bikes are not as maneuverable, or they're too heavy, or they don't brake very well, and so on, so on. I agree. Like, compared to like a modern sports bike, these bikes are clearly inferior. But in regular street situations, where you ride kind of within the speed limit, you don't dick around, right? and you know, normal city traffic maneuvers or U-turns, whatever, they're perfectly fine. I would not feel very uncomfortable, you know, like taking a big Magna, you know, 1100 and riding it around city every day. I actually do. Of course, you know, the smaller, more compact, you know, better in terms of, you know, technical features or more technologically advanced motorcycles are, you know, preferred. But I wouldn't weed out all those 80s bikes. You know, as you can see, they can be pretty efficient in you know, in commuting. The only thing I would be kind of concerned about is like the gas mileage, because for example, my 1100 Magna does about 30 miles to a gallon. On the highway, probably up to 40, and that's it, right? Compared to like the Ninja 250 that can go like, I don't know, 50, 60, whatever. So the fuel consumption is definitely the downside, but that's about it. With brakes, for example, you can make those bikes' brake work. The way to do it is you're gonna have to invest a little bit, but you can make it work. So I'm not talking about replacing modding the calipers, or you know, trying to attach more efficient calipers or bigger calipers like the 6-piston, you know, GSXR caliper. No, but you can make your stock calipers work. And the way to do it, you would buy a rebuild kit with all new rubbers, all new bolts, screws, seals, whatever, and you would get a quality front brake master cylinder, a used one from some sort of, I don't know, some super sport maybe, and you get braided brake lines, because the 30-year-old brake lines, they can lead to the point where you squeeze the front brake and you're all the way in, and you can feel it that the pump is all the way in, like the lever doesn't go any deeper, and the bike is still not braking, right? I mean, of course you can say, hey, you know, bleed your brakes. Okay, you can do it, but a lot of times there is all kinds of you know, the old banjo bolts or the old washers. Don't rely on it. Just get a new cable. It's not that expensive. It's like $100 a kit. You can get Galfer. I recommend Galfer. They're pretty good, and you can get them with all kinds of colors and shapes and most colors. But my preferred setup is just a black shield with the stainless steel ends, and they always come with the brand new banjo bolts and brand new washers. Strongly recommend that. Check your torque values when you tighten it up, and that's it. And then I sold the bike because there was a guy who offered a pretty good price. I was kind of getting tired of it because I wanted something different. I was looking forward to buy a 1100 Magna from my neighbor at the time, and I just needed, you know, I kind of needed money, and also, you know, at the end of the day, this cruiser position induced by, you know, the way the foot pegs are on those bikes, and you know, the distance of the seat to the handlebars, and also the handlebar angle, that doesn't make me very comfortable on those bikes. Like, you, at the end of the day, you end up riding like this, holding one bar and kind of like it's not very comfy. It feels a little too small. Like for my girlfriend, this Magna would be like a perfect bike in terms of like her body shape and you know, all the dimensions. But it may be a little too heavy though, but when it comes to me, it just felt a little uncomfortable. The 1100, however, it's a completely different story, but there's gonna be another video about that later. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, or hit me up through the private message or whatever. I'm gonna try to keep up some videos about my projects. So again, thanks for watching. It's cool when you can buy a bike that's cheap and old, but under certain conditions. First, when you were younger, don't go out there and spend money on drinks. Buy some tools. Second of all, you need to have a garage. You're not going to be able to pull that off in your front yard or on a side road, whatever. No, forget about it. You need a garage, okay? So rent a garage. You need a garage. You need a garage, okay? So keep that in mind, that you need a garage. Okay, number three, you need to have some skills, right? So of course there's the chicken and the egg problem, because how are you going to get the skills if you never fix the bike? But in order to fix a bike, you need to have the skills. Well, the best way to do it, buy an old bike and fix it, and preferably have somebody that that knows some stuff, that can point you out the right directions. Because the worst thing is if you're just going to start breaking stuff, and it will happen, you know. So be ready financially too. Like, don't expect that, oh, you're going to buy a $400 bike or $700 bike and that's it, and you're gonna ride it the whole season. You won't. It's not gonna work. There's gonna be something that needs to be fixed. Simple stuff, you know, carb kits, choke cable, aluminum polish, air filter, mirrors, tires, fork seals, fork oil mod that I didn't actually install, bulbs, fuses, seafoam, tire change, another set of fuses, gear oil for the final driven gear, spark plugs, fuel pump, horn, seat cover, stapler, foam, glue, knife, handlebar, oil filter, ignition switch, saddlebags, all kinds of stuff. Just be ready for about 2 grand, basically. Any bike that's kind of, you know, cheap, you're gonna end up spending around 2 grand. I can you know, send you some of my, you know, financial lists of things that I bought. I don't want to like publish them here because it's none of your business, but that's what it is. A bike costs like 2 grand if it's like an old cheap bike. So that's about it, and thanks a lot.